in person, if you don't have confidence or you don't exude confidence, it makes it tougher for you to interact with people because you don't have a trait that helps you in those scenarios. Now online, you don't need to have that much confidence. You can rely on pictures and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say it's easier in person. I wouldn't necessarily say it's easier in person. It depends how much effort you put in person compared to how much effort you put online. Now online, if you curate it and you add, obviously you do a photo shoot, you do certain things. Normal bros, and we back at it again. First of all, I'm gonna need you to tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a mother effing friend to follow and subscribe to your boys. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other podcast platforms as well. You can catch us on YouTube and TikTok. That's Far From Normal Podcast. Make sure you type that into a search engine and see the boys on those clips. We got everything for you. We got the website, www.farfromnormalpodcast.com. We got all the links up there. Make sure you check it out. Of course, YouTube. We're on Instagram as well. That's far_from_normal_podcast. Check it out. You already know. It's your boy Fuzzy Vision. You know, I see the world clear. And, you know, I see the future. And the future is bright. You already know. Fuzzy Vision with 2 N's. If you have any likes, dislikes, rebuttals, or you want to be on the podcast, hit your boy up. Sonny, drop the handle, baby.
You already know what it is. It's your boy Sonny Frames. You can catch me on the gram at Sonny, SONNY, Frames, double S at the end. Make sure when you do check out my Instagram page, check out my stories because I usually post a lot of stuff that has to do with motivation, inspiration, chasing your dream, and execution. So let's not forget, any dream that you're trying to achieve, the only way that you'll ever achieve it is through execution and putting a plan to motion. So make sure that you don't just stay in the dream world, and make sure you make it a reality.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
And Fuzzy, let's get him.
There's so much shit going on in the summer that I feel like it's always hard to get your shit off. Like when you're trying to do some stuff, especially utilizing the time in the summer to even travel, to go to different places, basically to focus on yourself, what you want to do in life, things, experiences you want. Do you feel like these things kind of distract you or just have you doing the most sometimes, going to different events and checking out different places?
I would definitely say it's exhausting, and it can give you some anxieties because, you know, every weekend there's something going on, so it drains you from, it also raises the stress level sometimes because you want to do certain things that helps you stay balanced, and you can't really do that because there's so many events going on and so many people are trying to take your energy and put it towards different places. But I think in that you have to find those pockets of space where you can unwind and you can do what you want to do. So maybe starting your days early, especially on the weekend, you want to start as early as possible to hit certain targets. So when your time is being taken up in different situations where it has to come down to networking or just going to different events or festivals,
even maintaining relationships,
maintaining relationships, that's all later on during the day. So I think if you can conquer the morning, during the day, I don't think you'll have such a big issue with it.
No, I'm under the same impression, to be fair. Like, I think, like you said, you have to conquer your day earlier if you want to partake in, like, other stuff. So, as you know, like, the things we went to this weekend, there was, we went to, like, appreciation barbecue. A couple of our homies were hosting, actually. And that was pretty cool. Like, that was, you know, in the evening time event. It was raining all weekend, by the way, so it wasn't the most ideal weekend, but they had pockets of good weather, so it did end up working out when we went to that barbecue, and it was great. You know, free food, you know, drinks were there. They're beautiful ladies. You know, there's men there as well.
The style of dance was different because coming from the States.
Yeah, so what was going on is, you know, some of the guys we know are part of a fraternity,
which is actually derives from the States. Yeah.
Usually, yes, it does derive from the States. I won't mention the name just because I don't want to butcher the name, and I don't know so much about fraternity, so that's not my realm. But when we went to this event, we seen things we just never see in Toronto. You know, just opening up our eyes to different kind of culture and stuff like that. And it's pretty much a brotherhood from what we gathered. And you have initiation, you have your little rituals and ceremonies, and how you get sworn in. So that's what that was all about. But it was good just to seeing like brothers come together. For a greater purpose. Obviously they're doing this to like uplift themselves, to make stronger attachments and networking. So it looks like something great. I mean, like I said, it's not necessarily something that I lean towards because I haven't been exposed to those type of things, that type of culture. So I'm never the first one to jump into something like that, or any group for that matter. But it's definitely good to see people that like you mess with, doing certain things that are, helping them elevate themselves. I would say. I think it's like nothing detrimental to them. I think it's definitely good for where they're headed. And yeah, man, it's crazy. What do you think of the whole, initiation and the emotion that they came out with, all of that, because they do make a captivating performance.
I find it interesting for sure. Would I join a brotherhood of that caliber? I think at this age, no, but I do appreciate the enthusiasm and the charisma that they shown us while they're going through the initiation, and even people that have already been sworn into the brotherhood and what they were doing, and also them supporting their brothers that are also being initiated. That strong ties. I definitely understand all those things that they're trying to, exude to the world and also make us understand. I think that energy, definitely when the youth see it, want to be a part of that.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of the times when I talk to individual members that have joined the fraternity, that have joined the brotherhood, they said that they used to see it a lot in the States when they were young.
Yes, absolutely.
And they always said they wanted to be a part of it. They thought it was so cool. So those ideas were stemmed from a younger age, and now they're finally given the chance to do it. So they're taking the opportunity and they're running with it. But for people like us that were born in Toronto, we haven't been exposed to that level of culture and
ceremonial things,
and ceremonial and rituals of that sort. So as much as we find it interesting, we also don't quite understand it, and we don't understand how deep it goes. So it's hard for us to want to also be a part of it in that sense.
Well, that begs the question do we have to join tribes or groups in order to, go far in life? I guess that's the question, because a lot of the times, we find ourselves alone. We find ourselves battling the world by ourselves. We don't have a helping hand. We don't have a cousin or uncle that is in a high position. So you ask yourself, how do I build a network if my family isn't prominent and the friends I grew up with aren't maybe doing as much as I'd hope they would do? How do I elevate myself? How do I keep myself around like-minded people? Do you believe that you need to join a tribe or group in order to see future success?
I think there's two ways that can go. I think a tribe is always necessary. Joining a tribe itself, I don't necessarily think you need to join a tribe, but you can also always create your own tribe, because sometimes the ideals of certain tribes don't coincide or align with your own way of thought. So you joining the tribe doesn't quite help you to grow, and also you're not giving it your all. So I think in that sense, you have to find people that are like-minded to yourself, and then create a tribe from that. And then you're going to find others that will also find interest in what your ideology is and your thought process, and they'll join that tribe. But you can always collaborate with tribes. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think even in my opinion, I think when it comes to joining a group or being a part of a tribe, quote unquote, I think it depends if you're a leader or if you're a follower.
Yes.
And I don't think there's a negative association with being a follower neither, or a leader. Leader bears a lot of responsibility,
100%.
and not everyone wants to be one, nor everyone sees themselves as one. Usually a leader is a position that's chosen by the people, right? So people recognize who's taking the most responsibilities, who's taking the most initiative, and usually that's the leader, because they're the ones that are putting in the most work typically and have the overall vision of what's they want out of maybe the group or what the vision is, because you need someone that has the vision so they can see the future of the group, right? Of what's going on. Someone has to have that, you know, that ability to see beyond what's in front of them. Now, when we look at, like, say for example, if you think about sports leagues, how many owners are there compared to how many players are there, right? So there's only a couple owners, and then there's, you know, a multitude of players, obviously, right? So in that sense, it's not to say that the players are lesser than the owners, but it's just to say that the owners are the ones that have the ultimate vision on where this franchise is going. The player now, again, helps the owner's business and everything thrive, but at the same time, I think a lot of people don't see themselves as players, and they see themselves as maybe the owners. So I think when you see yourself in that sense and you want to create your own thing, it will be a lot tougher for you to join a group when you feel that you can create your own. So I do believe that, like, you could, if you're a person that doesn't believe that, you know, you would fit well in a group, whatever group it is, because groups have rules and have, you know, codes of conduct and responsibilities and all that type of stuff. So some people don't want to undertake that. You know, they don't want to have to, you know, be held to a certain standard that was set by somebody else. They want to be held to a standard that they set. So I think it's just a difference of personalities, difference of where you are in life and where you're trying to go, to tell you the truth.
100%. I definitely can agree with that. And I think you yourself have to kind of figure out where you stand and understand that aspect of yourself, because that's a very important factor for if you'll be able to fit into a group or just create your own group. But on another note, another thing that we did that was very cool and interesting was, you know, attending our homegirls party. It was interesting just because it was a pink party.
Pink party, yeah, that was different for sure.
It was definitely different because she was definitely forcing everybody to wear pink.
You gotta wear that pink.
Oh yeah.
Funniest thing is someone came without pink, which was hilarious.
Yeah, so it was only one person.
It was only one person out of a decent amount of people.
Yeah,
you know,
decent amount of people.
Surprised,
yeah, surprising. I mean, I thought the guy with the bandana, the pink bandana, and
that was hilarious. The pink bandana, all black,
and the pink bandana. I thought that was hilarious.
That was hilarious. But most guys don't have pink in their arsenal.
Yeah.
No one's gonna go buy a specifically pink outfit
for just that party.
I don't blame anyone for that. Luckily, we're fly guys. You know, we got to have a little bit of pink.
Yeah, we have all types of colors. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, we went out to that party again. We're good sports, so we'll go and partake and see what's up. And it was a dope party. You know, it was all pink party. It was themed. People were on board. So I guess in hindsight, you know, pictures and all that type of stuff worked very cohesive.
Yes.
You know, and it worked out to the theme.
Backdrop and everything that she had going on, that definitely helped with that.
Absolutely. So I didn't really mind the idea. I think maybe I'm not such a person that plans that way, that needs a setup like that. But sometimes, you know, women take a lot more, pay a lot more attention to detail.
Yes.
So they like those little details, like of the pink and the theme and all those type of things. We're a guy. He's just, you know, just come through however. We're going to have bottles, we're going to have food. It's going to be very simple. I think some people are a little bit more well thought out. So kudos to her that she, you know, had that idea and made it happen. At the end of the day, if you want things to happen how you want it to go, you have to create that precedent. So it's just about being direct on what you want. You know, you don't need to participate. But if you do come, follow what's going on. And at the end of the day, it was a good party. We enjoyed that. After that, we also we checked out downtown. This is Toronto. We checked out King Street. And what was popping out there when we went down there?
So we went to this new spot that actually came out of Vancouver. I guess it's a franchise that they got going on, but it was very interesting because I've never seen anything of that sort in Toronto. or anywhere in general?
I've seen it, but
You've
not
seen it?
in that mixture.
Yeah, I've
feel like
never.
it's,
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it because
Okay.
basically it was an arcade within a bar / lounge. Plus, so they were.
Well, it's a bar.
Well, it's a bar?
that has arcade games in it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And
So
there's
it's
a dance floor in it.
yeah,
Starts
so-
off as a bar.
Yeah, so
not
it's-
as an arcade.
True. So it's funny. Yeah. It starts off as a bar. But then they have arcade games set up in different sections
Yes.
of the bar sporadically, but at the same time they serve food at the same time.
The one thing I found pretty crazy is that they had like intricate arcade games. Like it
Yes.
wasn't like
Yes.
basic arcade games or like basic games like obviously like pool, ping pong, those type of
Yes.
games. Because I've been to bars
Yes.
where they have ping pong and stuff like that in there. And the reason why I said it's a niche spot is because the club combination is what threw me off.
Yes,
Because you can see a bar
you're
with
right,
the arcade.
You're right.
I've seen bars
even
and arcades
forgot about that.
combined.
The
It
fact
was the
that
club
they
part
have
that
a
threw you off.
They have a club section, like literally an area where people
A
can
dance
party
floor.
and dance, and then the DJ was there.
That
So,
threw me off
yes,
because
yes,
at a normal
yes.
arcade bar, they'll have a bar and they have this
Yeah.
arcade game, but
But that's just it.
it's just the arcade games that you came there for, and then
Yes.
drinks are complimentary. Obviously, having a bar in your situation,
And
most-
apparently the food is good too.
yeah, apparently they serve good food, and
Yeah.
yeah, that threw me off because you're seeing like bottle service. Though they never had so much boots, which
Yeah.
I loved. You know, I'm not a big fan of boots. I'll tell you the truth.
Yes.
Like, boots is just a way of a club making money off of people trying to flex like they have more money than they
Yeah.
have actually. So
Yeah.
I wasn't a big fan of that. Or that culture anyways, so it was refreshing to come to a club where they did have bottle service, but they didn't have much boots. They only had maybe like 1-2 boots, but it was just bottle service that they
Yes.
had, and then they had like regular drinks at the bar, and it was interesting, you know. Though it was like kind of chaotic with everything going on
Yeah.
with the arcade and the
Yeah.
dance floor and the bar.
I think you got to kind of pick your spot, you know. So if
Yeah, I didn't know what you would go there for, I
Yes,
guess.
yes,
Because I was looking
yeah.
at it, some people look like they're on dates.
Yeah.
Some people are looking like they're going to go pick up some girls. Some girls look like they're there to drink. You know, so everyone was doing different things.
Different
Some people
things,
look
yeah.
like they're just there to play arcade games with their homies.
Some guys were first timers. They literally
Yeah.
just came into the country.
Yeah,
Heard about the
exactly.
spot.
We bumped into
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Bumped
So-
into some Indians out there, and that was hilarious.
Yeah. So they just came into the country. They were just trying to see what was going on, and they were feeling the vibes.
You know, it's kind of funny because like anytime I see different cultures dance, I always find it hilarious. I'm
Oh,
not gonna
yeah.
lie to you. Like outside of the black culture, hey,
Yes.
it is what it is. When I see other races dance at the club, it's like the rhythm doesn't exist. They
The
don't hear
only
the same shit
people
we're
that I can
hearing.
say that has really good rhythms are Latinas and
Yes.
Latinos,
Yeah, shout out to all the Hispanic,
Hispanic people. Yes.
They have that rhythm. They got that.
That's the only time I see
Natural
like,
rhythm.
Yes, the amazing style, great rhythm, and they look really good on the dance floor. But
yeah,
I mean,
man. A lot of these guys, though, man. Oh man.
Yes, it's a disaster.
Especially being in Canada, you know,
Yeah.
some of the cultures here. Let me tell you, they never danced in their life.
Yes,
They hear a beat.
two left feet.
Two left feet. They hear a beat. They're tumbling all over the place, tumbling, fumbling around.
Yeah.
Like, it's hilarious. But, you know, we did have a good time there. Like I said, it was actually a good vibe, good music, you
Yeah.
know. Crowd was a bit younger, so I
Yeah.
wouldn't say it was your older crowd. It's definitely mid-20s, I would say, like
Yeah.
majority of the crowd. So like people coming out of college, and then people that, you know, been out of college for a couple of years, probably upwards from mid-20, what did you say, like 25, 35?
I would say between 25 to
25,
35.
35 is like the most
Yeah.
majority. like,
Yeah.
probably.
Probably even younger, maybe.
Yeah, I'd
even
say 22.
Yeah,
Yeah, 22 to 35.
Yeah.
Usually men always extend the ages.
Yes,
Like, so I wouldn't
yes.
say 35-year-old women would be there
Yeah,
because there wouldn't
yeah.
be any men that would be older, most likely. So there'd be older men there, maybe looking for younger women, but
Mm-hmm.
not vice versa. But like I said, it was a great environment. Just getting out there and seeing what's going on in the city. You know, clubs nowadays, I feel like they're dying out. I don't love to club.
Yeah.
Especially when, you know, we're talking about the booth situation
Yeah.
and having a booth and bottle and all this posturing, all this capping for what? For what?
So
For
do you? So I wanted to ask you. So in that bar / arcade / club scene, could you see yourself having an easier time and trying to pick up a woman in a scenario?
Definitely. It's not as much pressure. Like, that just reminds me of like when I was younger at the when you went to bars that were just bars.
Yes.
They weren't really like they're kind of clubbish bars. They had some stuff like that, but it wasn't like your typical downtown bar, like the luxury ones you're talking about when people are spending money. Like, you're talking about spending $1,000 on boots and bottles and stuff like that. You're not really competing with the likes of those type of men or women, and I think that just makes it easier for everybody pressure wise. I feel that when you go to some of those clubs, you don't really have a good time because a lot of the attention is given to those that maybe have boots or maybe have those situations set up, because bottom line is, you know, women go into clubs and get free drinks, free entrance, free this, so they're not really, you know, just standing in the middle of the dance floor waiting for guys to pick them up. They're actually trying to finesse their way to the guys that have bottles, the guys that are spending money, because that's where they get their enjoyment, because you know, women come as a commodity. So that's why the club owners don't charge them to come into many clubs, because they know that the men are paying for them to be there. So if you have a booth, you're not gonna get a booth to just have your boys in it, which some guys do, which is crazy. But most of the times you're gonna try and collect some girls from the floor. You collect them into your booth, you know. It's like Pokemon.
Exactly.
Like Pokemon. You throw your balls and you capture all the rare Pokemon, bring them to your corner. So it's kind of like one of those situations. So yes, in that environment is definitely more of a social environment. I think you have the ability to talk to a lot more people individually without feeling the pressure of having to, you know, be this big shot in the club.
Okay, but at the same time, now, although that it's given you an easier route or for you to speak to women in those environments, do you think for men they would go with that approach, or would they still fall back to the online realm, doing dating app?
See, when we talk about, you know, it being more sociable and easier to approach women, that doesn't mean it's easy.
Now that's what I was looking for.
So there's no easy scenario in my opinion. There's no situation that's set up for you. Only time a situation is set up for you is when it's exactly that, like
given to you.
Like when it's exactly that, like when, because even I think if a woman tries and picks you up, it's not such an easy scenario. People would think like, oh, that's a done deal. She's trying to pick you up. Oh, but sometimes that puts men off, and men, they feel like, you know, a little weird about a woman approaching them, so they might not receive it well. Even though it might seem like a layup, it doesn't happen that way all the time. So the thing is, it's never easy to talk to a woman online nor in person. Reason why? Well, of course, women understand that they inherently have more value than men. So they understand that men will always choose to chase women more than a woman will choose to chase a man. Why? Because they know that they can get men quite easily compared to men getting women quite easily. If men went to go get women easily, they would have to lower their standards in terms of the men they're dealing with, the women they're dealing with. So if you said that's not true, men can get, well, okay, you're right. If they if they completely lower their standards, right, there's gonna be women that he should be able to get in abundance, I guess, if that's the case. If he has no standards and can go after whatever likes him, yes, okay, chances are he's gonna have that. But that'd be the case for a woman in that scenario as well. Like, it wouldn't. What I'm saying is, for men chasing women, I'm losing my train of thought now. Let me get back to this.
Well, so what I'm trying to say is, when it comes down to these women, right? And the online, because you were first talking about, just because you have an opportunity to, you know, talk to women and the situation set up for you doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna win in those scenarios. And we were having a conversation about that, right? Because even when people talk about networking and oh, this is a great place to network. You're going to meet so many people here. But if the individual is not savvy in his word choice, or if he's not charismatic, he doesn't have that energy, that experience, he's not going to utilize the fact that he's in a situation where he can network.
Yeah, so that's basically what I'm talking about in the approach, whether it's online or in person. Now, in person, if you don't have confidence or you don't exude confidence, it makes it tougher for you to interact with people because you don't have a trait that helps you in those scenarios. Now, online, you don't need to have that much confidence. You can rely on pictures and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say it's easier in person. I wouldn't necessarily say it's easier in person. It depends how much effort you put in person compared to how much effort you put online. Now, online, if you curate it and you add, obviously, you do a photo shoot, you do certain things, you're gonna have more chances online. You better believe that, because just a numbers thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're being shown to a certain amount of women, well, how much times are you going out to the club and picking up women, right? Like, it's just a numbers thing. A guy in real life, he's not gonna. He doesn't have the ability to swipe left or right on what he likes or doesn't like. So when he sees a girl he likes, he doesn't have the ability to be like, yep, I'll get her, and then just pick her up right then and there. That's not how it works. He still has to feel it out now. But see, online, you can swipe, close your eyes, plug your nose, wake up tomorrow, and you have a match.
Yes.
You know, whether you thought it was possible or not, it doesn't matter. You're just swiping it, and then if she doesn't like it, she's just not gonna look at it. But you already swiped through 500 people.
Yes.
So you're not really worried about who doesn't like you. You're thinking it's a numbers game. Out of 500, there has to be
at
50.
least, yeah.
Like so you start to do it that way. I think that's where the algorithm starts to come into play. And I think in person, though, I'll tell you this thing about in person and why in person sometimes is your best bet, because both of you can see each other for who you really are.
Yes.
You're in person, you hear each other, how you sound, you feel each other's demeanor out, energy, what the conversation was, how they even got to interacting with you, what environment you're in. So you can judge it off so many things, right? Like if you went to the club, for example, a woman might not want to give you the number because she's saying to herself, well, this is a club. Like, I'm just here to party with my girls. I don't really come to clubs that much. So she might have the impression that you're a constant club goer. So she don't want to deal with a guy like that, right? So technically you have no shot with her, right? Just because of the environment you're in. But now if you're in an environment where it's like somewhere more organic or something more easygoing, maybe like a day party, something like a little lighter, maybe that's a situation where she'll be more open to being approached because she doesn't have the same stigmas attached to it, right? So when you go to a club, everyone knows what guys go to a club for. It's to pick up women, usually. Yeah. I don't understand why else they'd go to a club and pay 700% on liquor and all type of things that they're paying for. Like, I mean, you seen the meme, it's like a guy waking up when he's like realizing last night you spent like $25 for a vodka Red Bull, and then the guy's all depressed. This is what I'm trying to talk about. So men that go to clubs and deal with the inflated prices are always thinking to themselves, how can I benefit from this? How can I pick up
how can I leverage it with a woman?
Yes, typically it's if you come there as a single man, you're thinking, I have to pay this price to get in here to see a certain caliber of women and give myself a shot at approaching these women. Yes. And chances are you're not going to pick up much of them.
So as you were saying that on the online dating sites or apps, you have a better chance there because you can keep swiping, and eventually you'll get some matches. Now, when you get those matches and you start a conversation with these women. Now, I guess it varies according to person. How much information or how long do you want to prolong that conversation before you meet up with the person? And what are you trying to establish before you meet up with that person?
I think so when people are trying to match and meet people online and you're trying to get to know whoever it is you're interacting with. So some people want to know not that much. So like a lot of the times you go on these apps, the big thing is meeting up, because obviously there's a lot of time wasters. So a lot of people don't want to waste their time, chatting a lot. So in my opinion, if I'm going on an app, right, just generally speaking, for men just being on apps, dating apps, a lot of the times nobody, I would say, or most people would not want to deal with so many questions pertaining to themselves before they meet up with that person. Reason why: first of all, you don't know this person. The person's a stranger. You don't know them as much as they look good to you, and maybe they told you a couple of things about themselves, like what area they're from, what's their background, what their name is. At the end of the day, you don't know them from anywhere. You haven't met them in person, and you can't confirm they're actually a true, real life human.
True, they could be a catfish.
They could be, and these apps are known to have bots, right?
Yes, that too.
And if you've ever been on these apps, you've definitely had a bot or something of that nature, fake account, contact you. Everyone has been contacted by a fake account, whether you've known it or not. That's literally how these apps work. They have fake accounts that message you to keep you on the app to show, oh, this is a potential match you could have got, right? So there's a lot of tricks you don't know. So I think when you're dealing with people, and then also the fact of the matter is that not everyone runs their Hinge honestly, or not, sorry, Hinge, their Tinder, their Bumble, their whatever dating app, sometimes even their social media apps. It doesn't mean just because they're the person that's portrayed on the app means they're the one running the account. Lots of the times a friend could run the account, and lots of times the opposite sex can run the account.
Yes.
We've heard of men operating accounts for women on dating apps. And that shocked me. I was surprised by that.
Yeah.
So then I say to myself, if I'm talking to a woman on these apps, how much information am I willing to give on myself? Or how much information does she want to know before she meets up with me? Because I'm under the impression if you want to know this much information on me, that means it's going to take a lot for us to meet up. It's going to take a lot for us to meet up. And if it's going to take a lot for us to meet up, what's the point in being on the app? The app is trying to facilitate a meetup. The fact of the matter is you're not going to figure out much about a person until you actually see them and you're around them.
But I think even with that...
Hold on. Because now when you hear the answers, there's no chance for you to think hard about these answers. So say you're disingenuous.
Okay.
You're disingenuous. Yeah. You don't have really time to construct lies and construct these elaborate stories.
That's true.
Because at the end of the day, if she asks you certain questions and you can ask the same questions of her, but then on the follow-up, all of the things you talked about in person can be recalled. And if you're not really savvy at lying, you're gonna get caught in your bullshit. So at the end of the day, that's how I see that situation. That's how I see it. It's like, you're going to get caught up at a certain point no matter what. Like, if in person, it's harder to hide away from the truth.
No, 100%.
And in person is when it actually matters. Because at the end of the day, if a woman asks me about my life and what job I do, when I finish, where I work, where I live, what I do, what car I drive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, where do I draw the line of, okay, I guess you're going to have to deserve this to a certain extent. So that's how I see it. I'm not going to ask a woman overtly, so many questions about her personal life, not until the date. Because when we get to the date, what are we then to talk about? We already ironed out everything. So I guess at the date, it's just sex now, right? Like we just go back to the bedroom?
I guess the conversation would have to be steered towards a different direction. I think all that other information is just like you're just going beyond surface level. I think in Canada, a lot of relationships are very disingenuous because it remains surface level.
But you have to realize
don't know what's really going on with other
it's
people.
Always going to be surface level, even if you ask 1,000 questions online you never met. So we're only on this. We're not even on the surface. Actually, we're online. We're in the.
If it doesn't become
infinite pool of
if it doesn't become a meetup, if it doesn't end up becoming a meetup, then it doesn't even become surface level.
And here's the thing. This is one thing I'll tell you about that too.
Okay.
If someone asks you a lot of questions, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
You might appreciate somebody asking that much questions, trying to really get to know you. So that might be something that you're looking for. But it all depends what you're looking for.
Yes.
If you're not looking to make something a long-lasting relationship, then of course you don't want to deal with all those type
All
of
the
questions.
for sure.
Now, if you're a person that's unsure, even
Yes.
because if you're unsure, you're gonna be like, "Yo, let's just meet up
Yes.
and see and vibe." Like a lot of people wanna
Vibe.
Let's just vibe out. Let's see what happens. See what the vibe's feeling like. That's what everyone says these
Yes,
days, right?
yes,
Because
yeah.
I think people aren't really ready to commit.
That's what it is.
On both sides,
That
right? I
is-
think
that is
the
what it's
responsibility
about.
of committing, because there is a responsibility to committing, and I think that part is never ironed out. That's the part that's never mentioned, because
Yes.
I think when you get into a
Unfortunately.
relationship, it only is based on you liking that person and being fine or being okay with what they do in their spare time, what job they have, how much money they have, living situation, et cetera, et cetera. Those are baseline things, right? Those are just baseline things they have for any guy they're dealing with. They have a certain standard, certain things that they want to be ready for them when they get into the relationship, not things that they have to get while in the relationship. So I think they do try and figure those things out early. But at the end of the day, you know, you can figure out a lot of things early. Like, I mean, it's not necessarily going to change. It's not necessarily going to change much sometimes when I see it, right? Like, so like I said, when it comes to a lot of these, when it comes to a lot of these situations, when you're talking to somebody and exposing information, it's going to come down to your intentions, I
Yes.
think. So I don't mind hearing a lot of questions or answering certain questions if my intentions are aligned with your intentions. But I think it's when the intentions aren't in line, that's where it could be problematic,
I do
or
agree
it'll
with
be
that.
more of a waste of time to you.
Yes.
So you will eject if that's not what you're looking for.
Yes.
You'll say to yourself, well, I'm not really looking for somebody to be all up in my business, but somebody that you're interested in being all up in your business and you want to be all up in their business, then you guys trade off questions. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say it shouldn't be one-sided where
Yeah.
one person just answers. I think two parties have
Oh no,
to
it definitely has to be a
engaging
two-party. Yeah,
and then
it's only
discussing
an
that.
interview and it's only interrogation if it's only coming from one side.
Yes, absolutely.
If both sides are both firing questions back and forth, and both sides
I don't
are
see no
answering.
problem with that if both sides are firing back questions, but at the same time, you have to ask yourself, how much time do you want to fire off questions, and how much people do you want to keep going
that.
back and
but
forth?
most people aren't asking that much questions.
Okay, but again, this is what I say about both scenarios. So a woman that's not asking that much questions, then what would be the difference? You would feel that she's not interested?
Well, I would say that the intentions for that individual would probably be something short term. They're looking at something short term rather than long term.
But when
Or
they go
maybe
on this
they-
date with you, that's when you can ask these questions.
Yeah, that too you can find.
So
out
how would
that
you
way.
think that is going to be short term? Because like I said, they can have the right intentions and then just be like, okay, yeah, we're just going on a date. It's a harmless thing.
Yeah,
We're
no,
in a
'cause-
country where it's not like, you know, we go outside and women are, you know, like scared to go, you know, with men in a public place. Like,
Yeah.
there's protections and the law and
Of
stuff like
course.
that. Of course, still dangerous scenarios women can catch themselves in. But again, like chances are, from majority of the stories we hear, there are never too many crazy scenarios.
Yes.
Some turn bad and then women get cautious, of course. But majority of the time, they seem like they're reasonable interactions. Someone takes you out. You have a good time or you don't. And you leave early or you don't. Sometimes you get, you know, embarrassing moments or cringeworthy moments, but
I don't know, because sometimes I can say that sometimes when you're talking to a person online and based off the questions they ask you, it can also be a determining factor if you want to meet up with them or not, to be quite honest, at the end of the day. Because like, if you feel uncomfortable about the questions that they're asking you, you could be like, you know what, I don't even think you're for me, to be fair. I don't like the questions you're asking me about. I don't like where the conversation's going. I can't imagine being face to face with you. What you're gonna.
But this is what I say. This is like exactly what I say. So, if you pick up a girl on the streets, right?
Yeah.
If you pick up a girl just walking somewhere or going somewhere, and then you're trying to meet up with her, do you feel like you would get asked the same amount of questions, like from a woman that you picked up on the streets? Do you think that she would be as diligent as, say, an online dater?
Definitely not, because it's too sporadic. It's like in that moment of meeting up, they're not able to think so quick on their feet to be able to ask all these questions all at once, right? Do you have more time to think about what you want to ask and what you want to say when you're online because you're behind the screen?
See, but that's where I feel that you can fake it more.
Yeah, you could, but at the same time, we also have to understand that the landscape of dating has changed at the same time, where people used to be going out and approaching women. They're not doing that as much in this day and age. Most of the time they're getting these women online, right? And most of the time they have to be tech savvy, where the text messages have to be able to keep them engaged, keep the conversations going, keep them interested, right? Before you didn't have to do that. So it depends on the individual what works for them. I'm guessing, because some people are good with the text messages and they're able to keep a long conversation going even beyond the surface level.
I think also it's like strategy. Like at the end of the day, how much of us pick up the phone and call people?
That too.
So I
voice
think,
notes, no voice notes,
I think
no calls.
a lot of the times, like a lot of this can be remedied. Like the question asking is because they're only messaging a computer. Like they're not knowing who's behind the screen.
Yes.
So like they're trying to figure out.
Trying to be more thorough.
They're trying to be thorough with their pick, right? So at the end of the day, especially with women, they have so much guys vying after them. Like they're gonna have a lot of people coming after them. So which way are they gonna differentiate Joe from Shmo? Like,
so exactly.
Like,
so even at that, even with the multiple question asking, you can also look at it in the sense that, well, I have to see not only if I want to meet up with this guy, I need to also differentiate these guys from one another. I need to know who I've been in constant contact with, because if you have a rapid fire of messages coming your way over and over and over again, there's only going to be a couple people that you're in conversation with.
But that's why I say you need to get on the phone. You need to we need to get back to communicating normally.
Yes.
We need to get back to calling people when you get their number.
Yes.
Not texting them.
Even if you're not calling them, voice notes.
Yeah, voice noting them, giving them that personal interaction.
Yes.
Just to show, that like I'm here. Like,
I'm not a
person.
bot.
I'm not a bot. I didn't just like write this out of nowhere. Here's my voice. Here's where I'm at. Well, this is what I'm saying. You hear me loud and clearly. I think that you get lost in the shuffle of text. Because think about, like you said, there's so much other guys messaging them. So when they're going through their roller deck or something or whatever, when they're going through their text messages, and app messages and this and that and dating, but it's going crazy.
It's going crazy.
You have real life, you have social media, you have the dating apps. Those are all places where people are getting your number and your information and interacting with you. Whether you like the attention or not. You have to deal with all those fronts. So at the end of the day, they have to learn how to make things short.
Just navigate through it.
They have to know how to navigate. So for certain people, they'll make it short. They'll know when to make it short, depending on how the person is responding to certain questions. And they have to go through a lot of navigation when it's coming to pick the right person for themselves. But I do believe that a lot of people aren't upfront with their intentions. So when they're asking these questions, you're just looking at it like, okay, what's this all about? Doesn't on your profile say you're looking for short term or something like that? So you might get that confused, because even when you see women write short term and this and that, what do they really mean? Do they really want a relationship? Do they want a fling?
Yes.
But they're not going to tell you they want a fling.
Yes.
They're not going to tell you necessarily if they want a long term relationship. They're going to feel it out.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes they'll come in with those intentions, but you know, sometimes that's not the other person's attention. So sometimes they're lost in translation. Sometimes the infatuation will get to you, and you might sleep with that person, but the other person might not have any intentions of making a serious relationship. But like I said, I think the biggest thing is being upfront about your intentions before asking questions, because I think you have to, you know, mention to the person what you're looking for before you start asking all the questions. Because if you don't even know what they're looking for, why would you ask them so much questions?
Yes.
They might not even be the type of person you're looking for.
Yes. Well, I mean, the thing is, they can tell you what they're looking for, but now it's up to you to get that meetup in, and then, you know, slowly build from the information that you learned, and then seeing if they actually co-align with one another.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you're not going to know. As you said, when somebody's texting you, they could be
I'll
making
say
up
pick
a lot
up the
of
phone.
information.
Biggest advice I can give to like
picking up the phone, you can't see their body language. You can't see what's really going on.
But picking up the phone gives you time. It gives you a lot more time to figure things out.
Yeah,
because you can figure out all of what you just said, like all the
on
questions
the phone
you said,
quickly
in a quick half an hour conversation.
Yes.
You know, even an hour conversation saves you your whole day of texting.
In this day and age, I wouldn't say pick up the phone, because a lot of people are busy and they're always on the go. But I think you can learn that same information through voice notes.
Yes, this is another way of saying that. Like there's voice notes and everything of that nature as well.
You could do that on the go. You know, you're still mobile, you're still doing what you need to do, but you're leaving voice notes as you go along. But another thing I wanted to just even ask, when it comes to like even online dating, if a woman was telling you, let's say you came across a woman and she told you that she's been in, like, while you got the sharing information, and then you go even deeper into the information and you ask her, so what was your longest relationship? And then they tell you, well, the longest relationship I've been in was 6 years, but that was my longest relationship. But then I did another relationship which lasted for 5 years. How do you feel about that type of information?
It depends on the woman, to be fair. It just depends on the woman, because obviously she's proven that she can stay in a relationship for a certain amount of time, so better than a lot of women.
Yes, she had the track record. She has
a track record of sticking with her man.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how they ended, so I'd have to figure out what happened why did both those relationships end, and why didn't they go any further? Because 6 and 5 years sounds like, you know, a time that you would take things a little bit more serious. Now, I don't know what age you're at, so I'd have to figure out all the fine details, but there'll be some questions to ask in those scenarios. And I think it's a person is based case by case, you know, like you have to look at it in the grand scheme. It's going to always be different. You might give leeway for one and not leeway for the other. It depends how you're feeling at the time of when you're talking to the woman, and if you've been through similar scenarios. So sometimes it's relatability. Like if I was in a similar situation where I had a long-term 5-year girlfriend and a long-term 4-year girlfriend, and I'm meeting a woman that has those same scenarios as me, or same situations or similar, I might relate to her more. I might find that something not bad. Just like, so this is like how some men are. Some men have been very promiscuous in their life.
Yes.
So then when they meet a girl they want to take serious, and then people will say, well, warn them, hey, that woman's promiscuous. Like, you know, she slept with my boy, she slept with this, and it's like, hey man, I've been sleeping with girls too. Like, what's the big deal? So sometimes it's based on what you've done too. Sometimes you sympathize or you empathize with others, their scenario, because you feel like, well, I'm no better than her. That's how some guys I'm seeing are giving it up. Guys that were sleeping around and getting multiple women, it's like, well, I'm not going to be mad at her when she was young and she did the same thing, because I was up to the same thing. Why am I going to care about her body count? I have a high body count. So some people will empathize and maybe make excuses for, you know, past bad behavior because maybe they've done it. It's almost like a criminal forgiving another criminal. It's like, well, I went to jail too. Like, you know, it's hard. It's like the pot calling the kettle black. Like, of course, you're both the same, you know, one and the same. So it just depends on the scenario, where you're coming from, and then what the information they're telling you is, right? So like I said, if they had those long-term relationships, it depends what you see now. If you view that as problematic because you've had experiences where that was problematic, then it'll be that case. So like for me, I think if I heard a situation like that, I would be in question mode, because I would just wonder what had happened to end both those relationships. But there could be a reasonable answer that she has. I'll be willing to listen to that, because 5 and 6 years, it proves that like you're able to commit. But did you cheat? Did you do anything extracurricular outside the relationship? So that's one of those sticky ones.
So do you think, but with that level of experience, do you think that helps her for her next relationship?
Who knows what helps you for a relationship? I think it's always different for relationships. I started to think this way. There's no one solid way to conduct the relationships. Yeah. People have open relationships. People have, you know, all types of relationships nowadays, and it develops as you get older. So sometimes you're monogamous at the beginning, then you're polygamous afterwards, or polyamorous. You're sleeping with multiple partners. You have both in agreement. So how I see it, you know, it depends. In our country, they made it so that like traditionalism is not the hugest thing on people's minds. Yeah. So the agendas change with relationships. Sometimes it's lust based. Sometimes you just want a chick so you can have sex with the girl often, right? It's not based on loyalty and respect and all these other principles that they've told us about. So I think people just pick and choose what they like for the moment, because at the end of the day, it's almost like finding a treasure. Like you find the treasure today and it's all nice, it looks good, but then maybe tomorrow doesn't hold the same value. Or it's like buying a car. You buy a new car today, you wanted a Ferrari, but now you had the Ferrari for a year. Is it the same Ferrari? Like, do you still view that car as you first viewed it? So a lot of people, when they get with a woman, do they view her the same today as and tomorrow? It changes. It could change any moment.
I think it comes down to consistency. I think when it comes to relationships and marriages, the reason they last is not only because of duty. It's also, duty and family are two big factors for why they last, but also that level of consistency. Yeah, both parties are constantly showing up. They keep coming back. You know, they're doing what they need to do in order for the other partner to be just enough satisfied, just enough to continue to go down that path. It's just like if you're working out and you just keep that consistent workout going, you're gonna keep a certain body frame. You know what I mean? Through the years. Absolutely. Right? You make a little adjustments here and there.
It's all muscle memory.
Yeah, it's all muscle memory. So I think a relationship works like that as well. But, you know, when it starts to fall off, should you eject, or are you staying in there because you were there for the fact of duty and family?
Yeah, of course you should stick with it. If you're going to get married and go through that process, I feel like you made that choice. It's almost like sometimes when you choose a job in life. I
say that all the time to guys that get married.
Yeah, it's like you made the choice, you should just stick it out. Like you shouldn't have in your head that like this is a contract that can be broken. To be fair. Yes. That's why it should be taken seriously. Yes. And you know, when you have a girlfriend, a longtime girlfriend, or even if a girl has a longtime boyfriend, sometimes there's reason they're not married. Yes. Because sometimes, like I said, when you have that legal binding contract and when other things are involved, that may cause more issues down the line, and you know, maybe it does give more incentive to leave the relationship, right? Like I said, if you're dealing with someone that has money, and you know, if you dissolve the relationship, you get a certain portion of that estate and, you know, alimony and stuff like that. You can't tell me that's not going to entice you. Yeah, I'm not saying that's the only reason you did the divorce, but the fact of the matter is you're doing a divorce where it benefits you. Yes. It doesn't necessarily take away from you. Of course, you're going to lose some stuff, but you're losing the main weight that was weighing on your shoulders, which is the man, or which is the girl. Yeah. Right? So, yes, you're going to not get everything. You're not going to have your cake and eat it too. But you still can win on the front of maybe financially absorbing someone's resources, And then not having to deal with the man, you know, or potentially like blocking the man from, you know, you could be vindictive. Maybe the man cheated on you or something like that. You could prevent him from seeing his children. You could, you know, do certain things that mess up his business, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But so like I said, it's case by case. Everything is different, especially when it comes to anything long term, and people committing, all these type of things. I think people have to take it very serious when it comes to committing. Like I said, when it comes to marriage or any type of serious commitment, I think that people just don't have that idea of how much work that involves.
Speaking of committing, do you think that society is trying to push relationship and accepting what's out there in this given society, in this specific society? Do you think that the society is really trying to push for you to get into a relationship, even with the options not being the greatest options? Do you think that,
I think every society is trying to push their people to get together because it boosts the population, the workforce, you know, whether it works or not.
But they can have immigration happen.
Yes, they could have immigration happen, but at the end of the day,
that
the outrage
replenishes the workforce.
Yes, but the outrage usually comes from the citizens of the country, not the immigrants of the country. The immigrants of the country are not going to complain about too much, right? It's going to be the citizens that have complaints, and that's the things you're going to have to address. There's lots of laws and things that are going on in Canada that no immigrant ever heard of because they're not from this country. They don't know what's going on, politics, policies, certain issues that they have in different parts of Canada. They have no clue. They only know that this country accepts immigrants. That's where they're basing their thing off. So other people are getting affected. The people born here, they're going to be affected the most severely. So you're gonna have to try and figure that one out, and how your society is gonna be strong. Your society is not gonna be strong. Yes, you can have infrastructure and stuff like that built by immigrants, but you need a social structure. If you have no social structure, well, like families and divorce and all these things, that doesn't help a nation's strength by having a lot of like broken families and degeneracy. That's not going to help a nation. So I think, you know, nations that have figured out, okay, we need people to get together, or we're going to start falling apart like Japan, where they're not really having children.
I was going to say that, but I was going to add on to, it's funny because not every country is full of degeneracy, but still people aren't coming together.
But for example, like a place like Japan, they're not going to open their borders to immigrants to start impregnating their women.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that just because the Japanese are impregnating their women. Well, who knows? Maybe it could get to that point.
It could get to that point.
You would never assume it to get to that point, that's for sure.
No, but you know why they don't want it to be like that? Because if they let too much immigrants in, it's going to ruin their culture, and then the whole degeneracy is going to like really wipe out what they have going on.
But they're getting wiped out by default because they're not having the children to replenish.
But then that's a social issue. That's something that could still be worked internally, where maybe the narrative has to change. The sexual education system needs to change, right? Maybe you need to.
But they've had like 10 years of straight decline. So you think they don't have no one smart enough to think that we should probably
obviously
change up
whatever remedy there's no remedy.
So point of the matter is they know what's going on, but it's not so easy to fix because it's a mentality thing. Same thing for our society. When we're talking about this marriage talk and stuff like that, a lot of women aren't talking about this. Let's face it, online, like they're not talking about these type of deep conversations. We're not getting that deep. We're getting very surface level because here's a lot of superficiality, right? If you know you can sleep with a girl with not so much effort, maybe a date or two, a lot of the times, if there's no onus on the guy to take her serious, why would he take her serious?
Yes.
There's no such thing as a prize as if it's available to everybody.
Yes.
Right? It has to be available only to the few for it to be worth something. So I think that's another thing, and we're talking about this, like sex in the first date and stuff like that, and you know how we value people, which is kind of strange to me because we all know we're all promiscuous for the most part. We're not virgins. We're sleeping around. We're doing what we have to do. Casual flings here, casual flings there. But then it's like, how do you expect then to flip the script and then turn serious? Like, when does that transition start and when does the other life stop?
I think you're saying that if you're a promiscuous individual, how do you transition to no longer being promiscuous?
Yes, like if you were okay with like always like not always having casual situations, but just going through the ringer.
Yeah,
you've had situationships, you've had casual, you had boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. How do you flip that switch of you living that lifestyle to now not living that lifestyle and dedicating all your energy to one person?
That's a very hard transition because you're not used to doing it. I think you're going to need a detox period of time to slowly, it's almost like rehabilitation.
So
I think you have to rehabilitate.
So you're saying you can't get into a relationship. So if you were playing the field, for example, right? You're still playing the field and you're getting what you want out of the field. Now, one of the women or one of the men now that popped up seemed to be your ideal, what you've been looking for. So now you want to take her serious. Does the script flip at which point? Where does that script flip? That's what I want to know. At which time does the script flip? Because you're talking to women, say for example, at this current point, but then one stands above the rest.
I think
how do you now believe in your heart of hearts that this one girl is gonna set you up for you not to talk to any other women at this stage because she already has what it is you like, but you weren't practicing being with one woman at the time of meeting this woman. So how do you now flip the script? I'm always under the belief
I think you don't.
Hold on.
I think you don't.
I'm always under the belief is if you're not practicing what it is you want, or you're not practicing for the outcomes you want, you're not going to get the outcome you want.
Yes.
If you're not preparing yourself for the outcome of what you want. Because if you're doing something different, it's not a click of a button and you turn into someone different tomorrow. You're still the same person. You just have different feelings for someone else, stronger feelings. But do you really believe in, say, a year's time, you won't just convert back to your old ways? Like, I always believe these type of things. I always think about them. I'm like, you can't live a certain way your whole life and then you flip a script. It's going to take some time, like you said, a detox period. Maybe you have to stop dating in general. Take some time to learn about yourself. Take some time to, whether it's therapy, doing what it is you want to do out of life, getting all your adventures out of your system. Yep. Like, even if it is sleeping with women, if you want to go and sleep with a bunch of women just to see how that feels, and then come back and say, you know what, I want to stick with one. Go ahead and do it, because women do it all the time. Yeah, they can travel and go have their flings in Portugal and Spain and Jamaica and all type of places. Then they can come back and just say, you know what, I seen that. I seen what I don't want. Those were fantasies. Those are reality. And that's the same thing as a guy. So a lot of these things are fantasy, lust, these different things. So I think you could potentially, flip the script, but you definitely need a detox point. You definitely need to erase yourself from the game, take your time off, do some self-reflecting before you do anything serious. Because like I said, don't get into a relationship if you don't really know what that even means.
100%. I definitely believe that. You need to know what a relationship is. That's first and foremost.
It's not just a word. Yes. It has deep meaning.
It has deep meaning, and I think...
And it has rules. Yes. That's the one thing, too, we have to state.
Well, you know what it is? No one really tells you about
the rules. Things. Yeah,
they don't tell you about the rules. No one briefs you on what a relationship is. You basically just jump into it. The responsibilities of a relationship. Not understanding that it's conditional. So there's a lot of stuff that
transactional
as well, to a certain degree. People just kind of get into it and then they bump their head and they figure it out as they go along. So, but I think all you need is one relationship to really understand what's really going on and what's needed in a relationship, so that when you get out of that relationship, if you end up staying in that relationship, that's kudos to you. But if you end up that relationship doesn't end up working out and you get out of it, now you understand certain tools you need, and hopefully you're not blinded about what is needed to basically keep a relationship going.
100%. I think that's 1,000% true. You have to know exactly what you're looking for.
Yes.
And if your intentions aren't there and you don't have clear intentions, you're not going to find what you're looking for because you don't know what you're looking for.
Yes.
And you're going to keep trying to look for the next best thing. That's what I was talking about, you know, like how do you go from dealing with multiple people and then just dealing with one? Well, you have to practice dealing with one. You can't just deal with many, then decide that one is going to be the one for you. I think you have to transition off that stage and say that part of my life is over with, and then you have to look to turn a new leaf. It's just like when it's just like being successful.
Yes.
It's just like, you know, you may have came from the hood, but once you leave the hood, you have to change everything of what you've been doing in the hood. You can't be like, oh no, I'm still hood in my mansion. No.
So that's a mentality thing.
That's what I said. It's a mentality shift.
Yeah.
So you have to get to that point where you're saying to yourself, I want change and I'm not going backwards no more. So you have to relinquish one to get the next.
There we have it.
Yep.
That's a good way to close it off.
100%.
And this is Far From Normal Podcast.
I already know.
And we are out. Deuces.
Whew, salute.
The way you make me feel, I'm just trying to get mine.